my little group here with the Common Sense people. And today I'm back with John Malloy because John
Uh,
Malloy is coming off a very successful weekend in Dublin where anything from 30 to 50,000 people turned up for two protests. And indeed, one was a little bit of an anti protest by a smaller grouping outside the GPO. But the importance of the entire weekend was it showed that there is a huge amount of people that are now getting activated and hitting the streets. And a lot of people have said this is only the beginning. Well, I hope so. Now, the next meeting is in Letterkenny in a few days' time. John, welcome to the program and tell us
Hi,
about this upcoming meeting.
hi, Declan. Hi, everybody. How we doing? Yeah, the idea in Letterkenny is to give a bit of back history on it. A few weeks ago, was a young lad attacked up in Letterkenny. He was coming out of a garage and he was attacked by a couple of non-Irish, and he was left in a bit of a heap on the ground. Now, there's been other incidents in Letterkenny, Buncrana, Donegal town, and surrounding towns. Over the last 2 years, 3 years actually, Donegal has been hit in a major way with migration and people coming in from foreign lands. Why? Uh, You know, the idea with the government is that they get these people in and they put them far away from Dublin as humanly possible. And Donegal would be one of those areas. It's a rather large county, private, that knows it. They don't look at them, go onto Google and think the size is Donegal. It's very sparse, very sporadic, and everything else. Secondly, Donegal is right on the border lines with Tyrone and all that. So an awful lot of these people who are coming in illegal will be coming in from England across the north, and it's quite easy to pop in to Donegal, Monaghan, that area, and get set up there. And they've it all well orchestrated and all very well done. So, even down, like if you go down South Donegal, down Bundoran, Ballyshannon, same would apply. So, bringing it forward to Saturday. Saturday is initially, and I know the lad that was the lads, two lads that are actually setting the whole thing up. They got on to me about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they had said that they were setting this up, and I said, okay, brilliant, great idea, and something has to be done. And they asked me for a little bit of advice. So I did say, look, lads, the one thing you've got to do here is you've got to stay away from the whole political element of it. Stop having political speeches and people up there for their own narrative, and so on. Now, it has turned on its head ever so slightly that there are political entities coming into this. It's also turned on its head as well. Sometimes I'm kind of on the fence with, to a degree. I think it's a local issue and should be dealt with on a local level, i.e., Donegal level. I think bringing in people from all over the country, like the idea of Dublin was a great idea, and everybody sort of homed into one central point in Dublin for that day with 30 odd thousand people, or whatever the case was, all getting together, having a bit of crack, meeting up with each other, swapping phone numbers, and so on. This case is slightly different, and I think it should have been dealt with in house in Donegal itself. That's only my opinion. It's only my opinion. Local
Okay,
county councillors.
let me put in there for a moment. Now, you said two very important issues there. You said something has to be done, and you said an assault took place. Uh, it's not really appropriate to call it an assault. My understanding is that this youngster is very young, he's 12 or 13 or something, and got horrendous injuries that you wouldn't describe as an assault. Assault might be a couple of classes or whatever. But this fellow got badly injured, and it's now at the crisis point that, as you say, something has to be done.
Oh, something has to be done. I agree to 110%. The reason why I use assault is that's the Gardaí wording. We 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 have to be very careful in what words we use in this country, because otherwise you're going to be there'll be people knocking at my door going, "Come here, you! I want you for a minute, boss. Come on, down to the local station." You know what I mean? So we have to be very careful of what we use. He was assaulted outside the premises. He was left in an absolute heap on the ground, and they walked away. On top of that, this is the burning thing. This is the thing that irks me so much. There, all these non-nationals, the non-nationals, are in Letterkenny and indeed other towns throughout Ireland, but it's particularly Letterkenny. And they've turned around and said, "This town is now ours. It's our town." And they broadcast that live. You know what I mean? So something has to be done. Local county councillors and the county councillors around Donegal, there's 34 of them, have kind of walked away from this whole scenario. They're not getting involved. They're not representing themselves on the day, from what I can gather at the moment. Um, there are people like myself that are very active on the ground, as you know, Declan, and we're not being allowed to speak. Now, I did question this. I did question this. There's one man, and you know him very well, Kim McMenamin, right? Kim has got involved with this, and Kim has said that there's no politics involved. Now, I know Kim very well, and I've been on the whole platform with Ken, and not for a long time. But at this moment in time, for some particular reason, and I'm going to just break this to you as I see it. You know me, I just let it go. Kim is not returning any phone calls or any messages or anything like that at the moment to me or to anybody else, including Niall McConnell. Now, Niall is a very strong activist in Donegal, up around the whole Buncran and Inshon, all that area. Niall has been told that he's not allowed to speak. Now, that's up to this moment in time. Today, I did get a text message from the two lads, not from Kim, but from the two lads, stating that they actually put it out live, that they have two spaces left to speak for speakers. So I got in contact with them, and they said, "Well, we're looking for somebody local in the Letterkenny area, which it should be, which it should." And this is what I suggested in the very beginning: keep it local, get local people up there on that rostrum, particularly maybe your local TD or whatever, and ask the flipping questions. Why is this happening in Letterkenny? Letterkenny is a great town, brilliant town, thriving town. But you know, Ken was on the radio on Highland Radio yesterday. I heard the whole interview. A very, very complex interview, very complex. And with Letterkenny Hospital and all that's there, an awful lot of the people that are working on Letterkenny Hospital would be non-Irish. But I'm looking at this, and he's kind of saying that he wants to repatriate nurses from Australia and all that. And I do agree with that, but at what cost? So it's getting a wee bit political and away from the agenda, which I think was the young lad. What happened? The girl that was, and I use the word raped. It's a harsh word, but that's the wording that they're saying. So I'm kind of down the south of Donegal, and I'm listening to this. Now, I am going to the rally, obviously, to support the lads and support the young lad in particular. There's another young lad up there as well that's actually homeless. That's on my radar, and he's been talking to me for this last 2 or 3 weeks, and he can't get any place at all. Now he's got mental health issues and all that goes on. He's been put from Billy to Jack and back to Billy again, and this is what's happening in every town around Ireland, but in particular at this moment in time, in Donegal has been highlighted. So that's kind of bringing you up to scratch and up to date as to what it's at.
So your feeling and the feeling of many more is that they should just concentrate on this local issue, which basically will fall under the heading of law and order, and the rule of law must be restored. These people do not want to broaden the conversation because it just gets too complicated. This is a sort of an emergency event, particular not to particular to Donegal, worse than most places because Donegal is dealing with perhaps more of an influx than others. Is it possible that somebody has actually targeted Donegal? Because if you were to pick one county in Ireland that is most traditionally Catholic and Irish, I believe it voted the only county that voted on one particular side of a recent referendum. Is it possible that Donegal has been targeted specifically for a very high percentage of migrants going into that county?
It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of looking like that. It's kind of looking in that direction. Um, we can't say directly that it is, but it does look. If you look at laws and averages and percentages, it looks like that. It looks along those lines. Why? Again, going back to the beginning, look at from the guys in Dublin, Donegal is way over there somewhere. Like it's way, we don't, put them out there, put them as far out there as possible. And even to some of the Irish speaking areas in Donegal, you know, like you're putting a non national from Zimbabwe or wherever, African, whatever, right, into an Irish speaking area. Like this, that's a huge cultural difference, man. You know what I mean? In anybody's
It
language.
most certainly is. Ireland is not big, but it's not small either. If there's one group of areas that should be kept traditionally Gaelic, is obviously the Gaeltacht areas. We have spent 100 years trying to promote the Gaeltachts, and now, for example, this has been all set aside for a bigger reason that may be unknown to most or whatever.
Yep.
That is fascinating. Now, there's a lot of other topics, but it does seem now from listening to you, perhaps, that it's just going to be focused on law and order. I was going to ask about the many different legal cases that's been brought, and would perhaps anybody be there to speak briefly on those topics? But it would appear now as if it's going to be focused on the local issues. Do you have any updates on any of those different legal cases? There's one at Lone, of course, with five people bringing it, and there's Coolock has three people, and there's a fellow down in Dundrum. What's his name at all? Liam de Butler, I think his name is. And then there's a fantastic fellow, Patrick McGrail. Is it possible to have somebody just give all those four different groupings a little bit of a call and have somebody address the crowd, just giving a bit of an update? Because there's going to be a lot of people there with a lot of things on their minds, not just the local issue.
I can't really answer on the legal end of it for numerous reasons, right? I can't answer on it. Um, I know there was elements down in at Lone that happened, and so on, right? Um, I'm not I'm not able to, shall I say, go any further on that,
Yes.
Declan, being honest with
Yes,
you.
we'll leave that for another day then.
Yeah,
So
that
as it
would put me in
stands,
that would put me in a situation that I don't particularly want
yes,
to,
exactly.
obviously, you know what I mean?
As it stands at the moment, then you expect that the speakers to be mostly local persons. But should somebody came up from Kildare or whatever that councillor, would he be allowed to speak?
I'd very much doubt it.
Yes, it's just going to
That's
be
Tom
local.
that's Tom McDonald.
Yes,
Um,
whoever. I'm just taking him for an example. For example.
yeah, yeah. Well, Tom was so solid in his way. Like Teresa Murphy from Bunrock was not on to me last night. We were discussing this for a good while, and that's a lady you should actually talk to, Teresa Murphy.
Yes, I'm
You'd
certainly.
love her, absolutely. There's nothing about Irish law that she doesn't know about.
Yes,
But a bit like Melissa Kelly. You know what I mean? Yeah,
yes,
I met Melissa last week, and my God, powerhouse, absolute powerhouse of a girl,
she
brilliant.
most certainly is.
Oh, she's brilliant, brilliant. You know what I mean? Just brilliant. Anyway, to answer your
Now,
question, uh,
the reason I
to answer,
picked Tom McDonald was because I've seen Tom McDonald at numerous rallies. I've seen him at Knock, for example. I know he's from Swinford, so it's not a million miles away, but nonetheless, he's a fellow that does travel, and he's one of the most high profile people that was not allowed to speak last weekend. For whatever reason, it's just bizarre because I think the parameter of speaking was going to be you're not going to speak unless you're an elected official, and he most certainly was just as
well, like
elected as the other four.
if you go back, if you go back, if you go back a week or less than a week, something similar happened in Dublin. Like, you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
uh,
That's a
shall I
very
just
fair.
say at this stage, right, without sinking my head too far down into the rabbit hole, that a section of the people that were involved with the organisation of Dublin, right, are now organising Donegal as well. They
All
have infiltrated it, let's say, right? So,
that may be a bit
uh,
too complicated for today, anyway. But
so it might be
looking forward to Saturday. We're gathering in Letterkenny. Is it at 2 p.m. Saturday?
1 o'clock down at the
One
roundabout and
one
marching
o'clock
from the
down
roundabout.
at the roundabout. I have seen somebody else. He was asked, "What is the expectations for the turnout?" And he says, "Well, it might be 1,000, it may be 1,500." That would be absolutely fantastic for a rural area indeed. What is your own belief on the turnout going to be?
Well, I personally, right, personally, I would ask anybody that's around the Sligo, Leitrim, Donegal area, right, matter who they are, matter what they are, should support because it's all local and it's all local communities supporting each other. You know,
Yes.
now there'll come a time down here in Bundoran, and it's not that far away, right? That I'll be needing support from Donegal North to come down to Donegal South. And that's what it should be about communities supporting each other, irrespective of what religion or what politics you have. Politics is out the window. This is supporting, you know, me, you, and everybody else because it's coming to our doorstep. There's an iPass only after being put out there public to me about 15 miles away from where I'm sitting right now. It's an old convent and it's been bought over. And it will probably take probably about 300 people. Now I'm monitoring this at the minute very, very closely. And it's out in the middle of nowhere. Middle of nowhere, there's about 30 houses around it. Like, you know what I mean? Again, not what these people if they have to, if they have to be brought into this country, and I'm saying that if, right? There's no way they should be put out in the middle of nowhere, any for starters, but they can't be monitored. You know what I mean? It can't be, corralled,
So
shall we say?
in that part of the country, it's all about local people coming together with other local people on indeed local issues. It is an area
Yeah.
sort of secluded in of itself for that in that reason, and it's fantastic to see. Maybe it's time to go back to first principles, and we're all Irish, we're all up in Donegal, and it's time now we come together to look after ourselves because nobody else is going to look after Donegal people except Donegal people, and
Well, I personally think, I, pers- I personally think, Declan, right, that politics is gone. In this country at the minute, politics is in an absolute heap in this country, right? If you're Fine Gael, not knowing what Fianna Fáil is doing. You're Fianna Fáil, not knowing what Sinn Féin is doing. None of the three major parties know what they're doing. Then you have all the small fringe parties, like Malachy Gleeson organising a party last week, um, and so on and that. But they're all fighting with each other. There's all egos and fighting. We're betting you. And politics is out the window. So my thinking on it is that small grassroots movements like local community movements, like the Clans of Era or the Irish Communities Together or the Community Alliance here in Bundoran or the Ballina Snow People or whatever the case, or the Knox Snow or whatever, should all support each other. Forget about the politics. Support each other and get out there on the street and show the hell that we do care about our communities. Not hide behind a keyboard saying, "Oh, I'll be there," and they never turn up. And that's the problem. People will not turn up.
now, there's three branches of opinion: those that favor political action, those that concentrate very heavily on legal action, and then there's the activists, such as yourself. So you are in the activist group, of course. That being the case, I understand that you and as many as you can possibly get with you, of course, are going to take a protest action rally, get together, sit in, whatever the civil disobedience, whatever you want to call it, and that is to be in July. Can you give us a little bit of a foretaste because that sounds like a very exciting proposition,
Okay.
indeed.
I'm going to read this out as we have it, and I've already sent it to you, right? So you know what I'm saying here. It's a national call to the Dáil. That's what it's been called. A national call to the Dáil. As at 12 noon on July the 16th. Now, the idea behind this is to continue the momentum gathered from last Saturday. Let it be up in the park or let it be in town, right? Where we're calling on every Irish person, right, to come and support those that are waiting on housing lists, living in cars, those that are in emergency accommodation in hubs, and in these people that are living out of their parents' house or with family or whatever, and can't, and at this stage will never get a house because the government are the way it is. So, um, where am I here? Uh, okay, we're asking everybody to get there, bring a tent, right? Because this is going to be an overnight camp out, right? Ideally overnight to highlight the housing crisis and the government's failing in housing the migrants over our own. That's what's happening. They're housing migrants, but they're not housing the Irish. There's 16,800 Irish at this moment in time, right, living in emergency accommodation. There's 4,722 right now, kids under the age of 16 living with these people, living like in these hubs. Now, to me, the mental health issue there is huge on those kids. They don't know where they're going to be. They don't know if they're ever going to have a roof over their head. There's mothers with a kettle beside the bed to warm up bottles for their babies and so on. That has to be addressed and that has to be stopped. So that's what we're doing on those 2 days and one night.
Okay, so just to be clear, you intend, and all those people intend to stay overnight in a tent or whatever, and perhaps some of the more stalwarts would maybe go into 3 or 4 nights or whatever. But the intention is to
Well,
stay
it's
there
a sea.
and
We're looking for a sea of tents on Kildare Street, so it cannot be ignored.
exactly, and you're not going to go away till the issue is addressed. That's the bottom line. You're
Well,
not going to go
see
up
the
there just for
dollar
a
is
few hours. You're going to stick to your
yeah,
knitting until such time as it is addressed.
yeah. Well, you see, we did what we did last Saturday up in the Phoenix Park with Tom Moore, right? Now we got word back today from the said president's office. That was just to acknowledge that he had received the letter. Now, an awful lot of people had said to me, sure, look, he'll never get that. It'll be thrown in the bin or whatever. You know, the doubters that are out there. Well, he did receive it. And he has the letter that we handed in. And he acknowledged the fact today, I have it here, that he received the letter. So at least it was acknowledged. And at least we got that far. So we sowed a seed there. This is a continuation of the same.
Yes, there is an established protocol. If a document is handed in to an official, it must be recognized and addressed or whatever. You cannot just throw it in the bin. It's a public record and it's legal, etc. So that
Yes.
is the 16th of July. Now the 16th of July is fantastic, but it does take time to organize. But the 16th of July is a significant time away. It's more than 2.5 months or whatever. Is there significance to the date, the 16th of July? Or would it not be possible to bring it a little bit more forward, maybe the 10th of June or whatever? Whatever.
Um, the problem is that this is going to take an awful lot of organization, an
Yes.
awful lot, because we're getting in contact with all the homeless hubs and all the homeless people like that are all the people that are working with the homeless, not the NGOs. Like the likes of down in Limerick, there's a guy down there. We're getting in contact with him. Same in Galway, same in Sligo. We need to get in contact with all these people and get them on board with us. So it's going to take a massive, massive amount of doing, and it's going to take a massive amount of organizing and getting things together
It sounds like this is an
to make it work
opportunity
and
for
make it work
all
right.
those people that are continually saying, let's put our egos aside and let's cooperate and let's unite. Well, this is actually
Correct.
something that they can unite on without actually losing sight of their own political ambitions as well. So there's no excuse for
We see,
any of these people not supporting this.
you see, the thing about it is that the people that are organising this, myself and the Clansvera and the Irish communities together and so on, we're grassroots. We're not political. There's nothing
Yes.
political about us. This is all grassroots movement.
But
And
even people that are
again,
political
I don't
should
refer back to
still
that all the
join up.
time, but I
Yeah.
think that is the way to go.
Yeah. Okay.
Forget about the politics. And politicians can roll in on this because it's not political.
That's the exact point I'm making. They have no excuse not to support this because it's not political, it's not infringing, or it's not impeding those people that may have political ambitions whatsoever. This is just
Correct.
activism. Show up, do your part, get into the tent, and be there or forget about it. And that is it.
Yeah.
Well, all right, that's very good. We've been about 25 minutes here, and which is quite a long time. Do you have anything else to wrap up now before we call it a day? So we've got two very important events. One just 2 days, less than 2 days away, and the other, of course, which will take 2 months of organizing and planning and serious hard work
Now
for the
there
people
is
that's
there is
organizing.
there is one other thing, right? People are now saying, okay, you did the thing in the park, right? And the prerequisite on that is 4 weeks for him to come back to us and say, well, he acknowledges the fact of what we were in the letter, and so on, right? And have a detailed letter from him or some sort of public announcement from him. It's one thing saying, I received the letter. But it's another thing saying, well, hang on a minute, we've read your letter and we don't agree, or we agree, or whatever. And I think on that, he should, by rights, address that himself. Now, we will be asking him directly to address it, which we have done. And we may either go back to the park, as some people are calling for that, or we may go back to city centre Dublin in May. Now, that's something that by tomorrow night, I'll have word on that, and you'll be the first to know.
Well, sounds like a fantastic development. After he has got 4 weeks, or else you will make a return to the park.
Well,
So
something like that.
yeah,
We were actually looking at things like, I know we're looking at maybe the 20th, whatever, 23rd or whatever. Then somebody said to us, well, what about Bloomsday? Bloomsday, like, is, I think it's the 1st of June or whatever. And there'd be people in the park for Bloomsday.
that sounds like a
Now, the
wonderful
whole
day out.
idea was if we would go back to the park, we'd have the whole Celtic vibe going on, if that's what we're going to do. But it's in there. It's just got to come out.
All right. Well, I think we have covered this coming Saturday, and we have covered the bigger issue in the bigger scheme of things, going to the Leinster House and having the sit-in. That sounds like a fantastic thing indeed, but there is a huge amount of preparation. All right, John. Well, thank you very much on coming on board, and I will leave
Declan,
the last
Declan,
word
just
to
one
you.
last Declan,
I
just
will.
one last thing, if I can.
Yeah, I will
I
leave the
just want to
last
say
word to you as
thanks.
usual.
Thank you. I just want to say a huge thanks to those that supported, those that believed, and everything else in what we're doing in the Phoenix Park, and to everybody that came to Dublin. Indeed, to the march in Dublin. You know, we are here as well. Come and support us. You see what we're doing. You know what happened in Dublin. Slán that.
Yes, I would ask those 40,000, give or take, to keep the struggle going. And as they said
Yeah,
themselves, this is
100%.
just the beginning, and let's make sure it's
Oh
just
yeah.
the beginning. All right, John, thank you very much.
Thank you, Declan.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.